Rabindranath Tagore, a name hallowed beyond the common pale of ordinary human beings. The icon of Bengal, the mystic philosopher feted by the West. But above all, he was the quintessential poet defined by the English poet William Wordsworth, a man speaking to men, a product of the effervescent cultural life in colonial Bengal. Should he be relegated to the past, or does he have any message for our independent nation state, India? Instead of the usual song, dance, and recitation rituals in celebrating Tagore, we will be reading excerpts from his essays, novels, lectures, and a few poems, through which we find his continued relevance in fractured times. His essentially humanist vision of a Bharatvarsha called for a country which could become a beacon for mankind, rising above reductive nationalism. Our national anthem, excerpted from Tagore's poem, celebrates the diversity of India, but the omitted second verse expresses an even broader idea, which we might recall at the very outset.
অহরহ তব আহ্বান প্রচারিত শুনি তব উদার বাণী হিন্দু বৌদ্ধ শিখ জৈন পারসিক মুসলমান খ্রিস্টানি পূরব পশ্চিম আসে তব সিংহাসন পাশে প্রেমহার হয় গাথা জনগণ ঐক্য বিধায়ক জয় হে ভারত ভাগ্য বিধাতা জয় হে জয় হে জয় হে জয় 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 হে.
This non-denominational God, by whose throne all humanity can unite, is, according to Tagore, the core of India's true spirit. Not a God worshipped through rituals, but one who resides in the purity and compassion of every man's heart. We shall let Tagore speak to us, not only in his own words, but also through translations in various languages. For though he wrote in Bengali, he is not Bengal's alone. He belongs to all. His words can be recalled in the darkest as well as the proudest hours of our national lives to provide strength and direction, which is rooted in humility and inclusiveness. Tagore lived amidst the fervor of the Indian freedom movement, but his idea of the Bharatvarsha he wanted to see transcended the narrow definition of a nation state which had been propagated in the West since the 19th century. Ironically, the Indian national consciousness, which was partly aroused by the impact of Western education, also tended to envisage the emergent Indian nation in terms of Western ideas. Tagore found this deeply troubling because, unlike the nations of the West, our country has a plurality of identities which have contributed to the great whole that India is. Through his numerous lectures, essays, poems, and novels, the poet tried repeatedly to remind our people of this uniqueness of India. According to him, it is this characteristic of our historical heritage which secures our place in the history of mankind.
What is the real glory of Bharatvarsha? To anyone who demands a clear reply to that, there is indeed an answer. The history of Bharatvarsha will only support that answer. Down the ages, the sole purpose of Bharatvarsha seems to have been to establish unity in multiplicity, to reconcile all dispensations towards one goal, and to realize in the core of our hearts the one in the many. Not erase the evident diversities, but imbibe the inherent oneness. Bharatvarsha has even tried to subsume the loathsome in its imperceptible fold. In order to establish an union, it is necessary to recognize the existence of real differences, accord them a place, and allay them. It is futile to merely pass laws proclaiming that we are all uniform. The way to integrate those who cannot be amalgamated completely is to recognize their individual rights. If we try to impose uniformity on those who are distinct, then one day they will strive to tear away forcibly, causing calamity. Bharatvarsha had known the secret of building such a union. The hubris of the French Revolution had been the ambition to obliterate all differences through force and bloodshed. But the result has been the opposite. Today, we see rising antagonisms in Europe's polity, people, economic ambitions, and public aspirations. The impulse of Bharatvarsha has also been to bring all together, but her means were different. Bharatvarsha has reconciled all its divergent energies by restraining, yet distinguishing each from the other, thereby constructing a body politic able to strive towards a single goal, though in myriad manners, without provoking outbursts of resistance by repressing the claims of individual groups. It has not allowed constant competitiveness to create incessant strife and turmoil in every aspect of our collective life. To find fulfillment and freedom through a common chord of harmony, peace, and stability has always been the quest of Bharatvarsha.
Who knows at whose beckoning myriad streams of men from far away in tumultuous currents poured in to be mingled into this ocean. Hither the Aryans, hither the non-Aryans, hither come the Dravidians, the Mongolians, troops of Shakas, Huns, Pathans, Mughals, transfused into this form's union. The West today has opened its door. From there we bring gifts galore. To give and receive, mingle and embrace, never spurn from the shores of this Bharat, the multitudinous ocean. On chariots of war, blowing victory horns with marauding uproar, crossing the deserts, the hills, the mountains, all those who once had come, they all reside in me. No, not alien anymore, my blood echoes with the tunes of those diverse legions.
It would, however, be a mistake to think that Tagore only eulogized an imagined Indian tradition. He was repeatedly pained by the discriminations he saw around him: untouchability, disparities between the high and mighty and the lowly and oppressed, hegemonic claims by any particular religion. All this pained and alarmed him, and he spoke out repeatedly, warning against the dangers of erecting barriers of the mind which translate into social barriers. In 1933, speaking in Sriniketan at a public meeting demanding the abolition of untouchability, Tagore said,
अजे असां उन्हनि खे मंदिर में अचण जी अनुमति कोन ॾिनी आहे, पर जेको आसमान जे हेठां ही मंदिर आहे जिथे चंड ऐं सूरज पंहिंजी रोशनी था फैलाइनि, जिथे तारनि जे चिमकण सां मंदिर जी जोत थी बढ़े, हुन ई मंदिर में अॼु असां सभिनीनि खे गड अची हिक थियणो। असीं सोचूं था कि ही जेको मंदिर पत्थर जी दीवारों सां चारों तरफ घेरियल आहे, छा ही असल में हिक कारागार आहे? जेको सच्चे मन सां मंदिर जो घंटो वजाए सब रीति रिवाज मनी पूजा पाठ था करन, हुनन के ही मंदिर मां छो तो कढियो वञे? जेके मथे आसमान में ॾिसी सूरज के हथ जोड़े सजे लोकन जे स्वामी जे साम्हूं मथो था टेकन, जंहिंजी असां बेअदबी की आहे, वो ही त हिन मंदिर जा सच्चा पुजारी आहे।
We find the same sentiment reiterated in the poem Hemo Durbhaga Desh.
हे मेरे अभागे देश, किया जिनका तूने अपमान, अपमानों में होना होगा उनके साथ समान। जिन्हें मनुज के हक से किंचित कर रखा है तुमने वंचित, सम्मुख रहकर खड़ा न दिया गोद में स्थान, अपमानों में होना होगा उनके साथ समान।
মানুষের পরশেরে প্রতিদিন ঠেকাইয়া দূরে, ঘৃণা করিয়াছ তুমি মানুষের প্রাণের ঠাকুরে। বিধাতার রুদ্র রোষে দুর্ভিক্ষের দ্বারে বসে ভাগ করে খেতে হবে সকলের সাথে অন্নপান, অপমানে হতে হবে তাহাদের সবার সমান।
When thou cast them aside from their claim to thee, exiled thou thine strength effortlessly, reduced to the dust beneath thine feet crushed, come stand with them, else there is no salvation. Thou shalt be their equal this day in humiliation.
Like Gandhi, Tagore rang a warning bell for his countrymen, foreseeing the ruinous costs of a society built upon the disparities of class and caste. The history of post-independence India has repeatedly proved how relevant the warnings were. Unfortunately, though we place him on a pedestal, call him Gurudev, and offer garlands to him, we tend to remain oblivious of the real worth of his words. The daily reports of clashes which confronts us every day only seem to bear out what he said in 1931.
সংঘবদ্ধ স্বার্থপরতা তাই আজ জাতীয়তার নামে দেশে পূজা পাইতেছে। আত্মপ্রবঞ্চনার এই মোহ জনসাধারণের মনোবৃত্তির উপর ধীরে ধীরে তাহার প্রভাব বিস্তার করিয়া চলিয়াছে।
Tagore's mysticism, his faith in the religion of man, offered a war-ravaged Western world an alternative to strident nationalism. But in his own country, deepening communal divisions stemming from blind bigotry agitated the poet and found expression in his poetry. In the extract from Noibeddo that will now be read, Tagore is not Gurudev. He is not a prophet in any mystical way, but he is a man addressing his fellow Indians from the depth of his anguish.
মনুষ্যত্ব তুচ্ছ করি যারা সারা বেলা, তোমায় লইয়া শুধু করে পূজা খেলা। মুগ্ধ ভাব ভোগে সেই বৃদ্ধ শিশু দল, সমস্ত বিশ্বের খেলার পুতুল।
We will not, however, simply dwell on these dark prophecies, but also recall his constructive nationalism, which is expressed across various genres of his writings, as well as in the institutions that he built. For Vishwabharati, built on the bedrock of his convictions, he chose the motto, Vishwabharati represents India, where she has her wealth of mind, which is for all. Vishwabharati acknowledges India's obligation to offer to others the hospitality of her best culture and India's right to accept from others their best. But it was not only an elitist cultural project that he had in his mind. His endeavor was to bring the people at the grassroots within the ambit of development. With this vision, in 1922, the university opened the Institute of Rural Reconstruction in Sriniketan, which was headed by Leonard Elmhirst. 100 years thereafter, our education system is still trying to overcome the rural-urban divide, and the poet's dream sometimes seems to be in danger of being forgotten. In 2022, it is our earnest desire that the poet's birth anniversary will not go by without reminding ourselves of his expansive vision for an India that would be truly great, rising above boundaries devised by men. Tagore had once written in a letter,
আমার চিত্ত মহাভারতের অধিবাসী, এই মহাভারতের ভৌগোলিক সীমানা কোথাও নেই।
In Purbo o Poschim, an essay written in 1908, he had opined,
भारतवर्ष हजुर को हो कि मेरो, हिन्दू को हो कि मुसलमान को, कि कुनै अरू जातिका मान्छेहरू आएर राज गर्न सक्छन्? यो भगवानको दरबारमा सबसे भन्दा महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा त होइन। अदालतमा विभिन्न पक्षका वकिलहरू कुरामाथि कुरा दरखास्त लिएर लड्दैछन्, तर जब यो मामलाको निर्णय आउँछ, जरुरी छैन कि त्यो मुसलमान कि हिन्दू कि अङ्ग्रेज वा कुनै एउटा जातिको पक्षको हितमा हुन्छ। हाम्रो विश्वास छ कि यो दुनिया अधिकारको लडाईँ लड्दैछन्, तर यो हाम्रो अहङ्कार हो। लडाईँ त असलमा सत्यको।
हामीले नै भारतवर्षको निर्माण गर्नुपर्छ। हामी सबै यस उद्यमका भागीदार हौँ, तर यदि प्रत्येक भागीदारले विद्रोह गर्दै आफूलाई निरपेक्ष घोषित गर्छ, हामी एकअर्कासँग मिसिँदैनौँ, हामी भिन्नै रहन्छौँ र त्यस कारणले सन्तुलन असफल हुन्छ। जुन टुक्रा यो विराट रचनासँग मिसिन सक्दैन, जसले खाली आफ्नै अस्तित्वलाई महत्त्वपूर्ण मान्छ, त्यो एक न एक दिन खारेज हुन्छ। जसले भन्छ मेरो एक्लैको केही महत्त्व छैन, आफूलाई यो विराट रचनाको लागि समर्पण गर्छ, त्यो स्वयं नै यो विराट पूर्णतामा संरक्षित हुन्छ। भारतवर्षको त्यो भाग जुन त्यस पूर्णताबाट भिन्न रहन्छ, जुन विगतको कुनै धारणा लिएर अलगै रहन्छ, जसले खाली बाधा रचना गर्छ, भारत इतिहासको विधाता त्यसमाथि आघातमाथि आघात दिएर परम दुःखमा सबैसँग समान गरिदिन्छ, नभए त्यसलाई अनावश्यक बाधा मानेर खारिज गर्छ। भारतवर्षको इतिहास हाम्रो मात्रै होइन, तर हामी नै भारतवर्षको इतिहासको लागि एक हुनुपर्छ। हामीले आफूलाई यसको लागि योग्य बनाउन सकेनौँ भने हामी नै नष्ट हुन्छौँ। यदि हामीले भनी ठान्छौँ हाम्रो धर्म हाम्रो मात्रै हो, हाम्रो आचरण विशेष गरी हाम्रै हो, हाम्रो पूजा स्थानमा अरू कोही पस्न सक्दैन, हाम्रो ज्ञान फलामको पेटीमा प्रतिबन्धित रहनुपर्छ, त्यसो भए नजानिकन हामी यही स्वीकार गर्छौँ कि विश्व समाजमा हाम्रो मृत्युदण्डको आदेश दिएको छ।
Tagore's literary works embody his profoundly humane convictions with the consummate craft of the great writer. Today, we present just two examples as representative pieces which provide glimpses of his idealism. Gora is a novel Tagore published in 1910. Gora, the hero of the story, is an ardent Hindu nationalist and an idealist who identifies Bharatvarsha with a Brahminical imaginary of the nation rooted in a distant, glorious past. In his personal life, he is devoted to his mother, but cannot understand her acceptance of people regardless of their caste or creed. He is particularly baffled and hurt by her refusal to distance herself from her long-serving maid, Lakshmiya, who is a non-Hindu. His bigotry keeps him from acknowledging his growing attraction for Sucharita, who is the niece of a liberal-minded Brahmo, Paresh Babu, who is also marginalized in his society because his humanism too is above narrow denominational rigidity. At the end of the novel, Gora faces an ironic twist of fate, which releases him from the limitations of a communal identity. In the last chapter of the novel, Gora rushes to Paresh Babu's house, unable to contain himself at the revelation that he has had.
ગોરા બોલી ઉઠ્યો, પરેશ બાબુ, મને હવે કોઈ બંધન નથી. આશ્ચર્યચકિત થઈ પરેશ બાબુએ પૂછ્યું, કેવું બંધન? ગોરાએ કહ્યું, હું હિન્દુ નથી. અચંબિત થઈ પરેશ બાબુએ પૂછ્યું, હિન્દુ નથી? ગોરાએ કહ્યું, ના, હું હિન્દુ નથી. આજે જ મને ખબર પડી છે કે હું અનાથ હતો અને મ્યુટિનીના સમયે મને બચાવવામાં આવ્યો. મારા પિતા આયરિશ હતા. આજ ભારતના ઉત્તરથી દક્ષિણ સુધી દરેક મંદિરના દ્વાર મારા માટે બંધ છે. દેશના કોઈ પણ ખૂણામાં સાથે બેસીને જમવા માટે મારી માટે કોઈ પણ સ્થાન નથી. પરેશ બાબુ અને સુચરિતા સ્તબ્ધ થઈ બેસી રહ્યા. પરેશ બાબુને સમજાયું નહીં કે શું બોલવું. ગોરા બોલ્યો, આજ હું મુક્ત છું પરેશ બાબુ. હવે મને પાપ કરવાનો કે પતિત થવાનો કોઈ પણ ડર નથી. મારી પવિત્રતા સાચવવા હવે મને ફૂંકી ફૂંકીને પગ મૂકવાની જરૂર નથી. સુચરિતા એકી ટશે ગોરાના ચમકતા મુખને જોઈ રહી.
Gora's long speech continues fervently, and at one point he says,
આજ હું એ બની ગયો છું જે હું આટલા વર્ષોથી બનવા માંગતો હતો. મારા દિવસ રાતના અથાગ પરિશ્રમ પછી પણ હું જે નહોતો હાંસલ કરી શક્યો એ મેં આજે પ્રાપ્ત કર્યું છે. આજ હું એક ભારતીય છું. મારી અંદર હિન્દુ, મુસ્લિમ કે ઈસાઈ માટે કોઈ વેર વિરોધ નથી. ભારત દેશની દરેક જાત મારી જાત છે. તેમનું અન્ન મારું અન્ન.
Gora turns to Paresh Babu in his epiphanic moment because he finds in the older man an all-embracing humanity which he now wants to emulate.
મને એવા ઈશ્વરને ભજવાની પ્રેરણા આપો જે હિન્દુ, મુસલમાન, ઈસાઈ અને બ્રાહ્મો દરેકના હોય. જેના મંદિરના દરવાજા કોઈ પણ જાત કે મનુષ્ય માટે બંધ ન હોય. એ ઈશ્વર જે માત્ર હિન્દુઓનો નહીં પણ સમગ્ર ભારતવર્ષનો ભગવાન હોય.
Tagore anticipates our own hopes as we look forward to a brighter future for this country of immense possibilities, which has been betrayed repeatedly by selfishness, bigotry, and arrogance. Yet, we still hope, for that is the only gift that we can give to our future generations. Like Gora, we too seek that future unborn anticipation.
নবযুগ তব যাত্রার পথে হয়ে আছে উৎসুক। কি বার্তা নিয়ে মর্তে এসেছো তুমি? জীবন রঙ্গভূমি তোমার লাগি পাতিয়াছে কি আসন। নরদেবতার পূজায় এনেছ কি নব সম্ভাষণ। অমর লোকের কি গান এসেছ শুনে। তরুণ বীরের তুনে কোন মহাস্ত্র বেঁধেছ কোটির পরে। অমঙ্গলের সাথে সংগ্রাম তরে। রক্তপ্লাবনী পঙ্কিল পথে বিদ্বেষে বিচ্ছেদে হয়তো রচিবে মিলন তীর্থ শান্তির বাঁধ বেঁধে। কে বলিতে পারে তোমার ললাটে লিখা কোন সাধনার অদৃশ্য জয়টিকা। আজি কি তোমার অলিখিত নাম আমরা বেড়াই খুঁজি, আগামী প্রাতের সুক্তারা সম নেপথ্যে আছে বুঝি। মানবের শিশু বারে বারে আনে চির আশ্বাসবাণী, নূতন প্রভাতে মুক্তির আলো বুঝিয়া দিতেছে আনি।
Where should we find this beacon of regenerated life? Maybe that lamp is already waiting to be lit in each home where love abides and holds together in chainless bonds. We will end with the epilogue to the novel Gora. After embracing Paresh Babu as his mentor, Gora returns home to his mother, who is sitting alone. He bends down to touch her feet with his head and says,
Ma, you are indeed my mother. The mother that I had been searching for restlessly was all alone in my home. You have no caste, you don't discriminate, you don't despise anyone. You are solely the image of all-embracing benevolence. You are my Bharatvarsha.
माँ, हाँ, तू ही ताई मुंहिंजी माँ। ॾींहुं राति हिकु करे किथे न ॻोल्हियो मूं तोखे, पर ॾिस तू मिलियई मूंखे किथे पंहिंजे ई घर में। तुंहिंजी न को जाति आहे ना ही को धर्म, तू कंहिं में बि फ़र्क़ु कोन थी करे। तुंहिंजी नज़रूं में सभु हिकु ई आई। तू आई दया जी परम मूर्त। हाँ, तू ही ताई मुंहिंजी भारतवर्ष।
आमा, तपाईँ नै मेरो आमा हो। जुन आमालाई म असहज भएर खोजिरहेको थिएँ, उहाँ त घरमा बसिरहनुहुन्थ्यो। तपाईँको जात छैन, भेदभाव गर्नुहुन्न, घृणा पनि छैन। तपाईँ त खाली कल्याणको प्रतिमा हो। तपाईँ नै मेरो भारतवर्ष।
माँ, तुम ही मेरी माँ हो। जिस माँ को मैं खोजता फिर रहा था, वह तो यही मेरे कमरे में बैठी हुई है। तुम्हारी जात नहीं है, तुम ऊंच नीच का विचार नहीं करती, घृणा नहीं करती, तुम केवल कल्याण की मूर्ति हो। तुम ही मेरा भारतवर्ष हो।
মা, তুমি আমার মা। যে মাকে খুঁজে বেড়াচ্ছিলুম, তিনি আমার ঘরের মধ্যে এসে বসেছিলেন। তোমার জাত নেই, বিচার নেই, ঘৃণা নেই, শুধু তুমি কল্যাণের প্রতিমা। তুমি আমার ভারতবর্ষ।